everybody, I'm Elizabeth Hines from ourpaleofamily.com, and it's cookie day. We are getting ready for a camping trip, and so I try to load us up on some of our homemade paleo treats for just a good treat and some extra energy while we're out camping. So I'm going to make now my N'oatmeal cookies. Yes, they are like oatmeal, but without the oats, because oats are a grain and we don't want grains because they are not good for us in this family. So, but these cookies actually taste amazing, and you would never guess that they are not your grandma's old-fashioned oatmeal cookies. So I hope you love them. And we start the very same way we started with our chocolate chip cookies, and that is with dates. And this package of dates is not nearly as nice and fresh feeling as my last package I had. So we're going to go through this process of pitting them, and then I will have to microwave them for a few seconds to soften them up, because I really want the dates blended. Like with the chocolate chip cookies, it was a little bit more important that we not have big chunks of dates. With the N'oatmeal raisin, it's not as important, because if there's a little bit of a chunky texture to the date, that would not be a bad thing with what is like an oatmeal cookie. Okay, so you saw I just very easily squeezed those pits out. I'm going to just make everything in this big bowl right here. So I'm going to add my dates to this bowl, and I'm going to add my other sugars and let them kind of microwave together for a few seconds. I used to always do this on the stove, which is perfectly fine to do it on the stove. Of course, some people would say you should never use a microwave, but I'm just in a hurry and I want to get on with it. So I'm going to utilize my microwave. In addition to the dates, we do have several sugars in this recipe. They all play a role. Yes, you can substitute. Yes, you could use all honey if you wanted to. But for optimal flavor and texture, follow my recipe. So we have a half a cup of dates, a quarter of a cup of honey, and a quarter of a cup of maple syrup. And then along with my dry ingredients, we're going to actually add a little bit of coconut sugar, which coconut sugar is sort of like brown sugar. Again, it has a different flavor, and it contributes something different to the finished cookie. Adds to sort of the crispy outer layer of the cookie. So let me get this in the microwave for just about 30 seconds. Okay, so this is warmed, and now I'm just going to blend these up. You could plop this whole thing in your blender, in your food processor. You could use a mixer like I'm doing, a hand mixer. You could use a stand mixer. I just want to break up the dates. That's my goal here. I'm going to check my recipe while this is happening. I'm going to eventually add all of my liquid ingredients, which will include my fat, my palm shortening, and my vanilla, and an egg yolk, and then we'll mix in all of our dry. Okay, so in goes my palm shortening. We have 2/3 of a cup. And I need a teaspoon and a half of vanilla, which is the same as a half a tablespoon. And then an egg yolk. We'll blend all this up, and then we'll get to our dry ingredients. It's really super simple. I know the whole date deal is a little bit more of a hassle than just opening a bag of brown sugar. But, brown sugar is just white sugar with a teeny bit of molasses added to it. Yes, it tastes good. I get it. We all love brown sugar. But trying to keep this as natural as possible. And again, using these as like hiking food for our family. They will hold up really well, and it's like trail mix. So just blend this all really well. I really want those dates chopped up. Okay, and then in my little food processor here, I have some pecans and walnuts. I'm going to chop those very finely. I don't want to take that all the way to being as fine as my almond flour, but I want them pretty fine. Okay, so I want half a cup of that total. So my recipe says 1/4 cup of walnuts and 1/4 cup of pecans. I mean that chopped. So you might end up chopping a little bit more. Whoops. Usually you can, like if the recipe calls for 1/4 cup of chopped pecans, just put like a heaping 1/4 cup and chop that up, and that will yield about the right amount. It's okay, honestly, this recipe is pretty forgiving. It's okay if you have a little bit more or a little bit less. But these chopped nuts are adding to that sort of oatmeal texture that we're trying to get. And another way we're getting that is through this golden flaxseed, which is already ground. A lot of nice fiber in here. Actually some calcium and iron as well. I think I might just finish mixing this whole thing by hand at this point. Okay, so we've added our nuts and our flaxseed. I need a little of this coconut sugar, 2 tablespoons of that. And some arrowroot, 1/4 cup. Arrowroot and almond flour makes the best combination for baking. It just really yields great results consistently. I mean, I don't want to say all the time because I'm sure there's an exception to every rule, but anytime I've made something with the combination of almond flour and arrowroot, you know, you work out the rest of the recipe correctly, of course, it yields a very nice result, better than using almond flour on its own, in my opinion. Okay, and then we need, pardon me, a half a teaspoon of baking soda and cinnamon, which I need. My grandma used to make oatmeal raisin cookies for us. They're one of my favorites. I have her recipe. It's called Huck Finn oatmeal cookies, and I think they were on the top of the Quaker Oats box. I think that's where that recipe came from. But I loved it, loved it, loved it. And there's actually no salt in this recipe. There's almost always salt, but not in this one. So let me just read through my list of ingredients to make sure I have included everything. We did the honey, the dates, and the maple syrup, right? And then vanilla and palm shortening in the egg yolk. I got my arrowroot in here, my almond flour, cinnamon, baking soda, coconut sugar, pecans, walnuts, and flaxseed. Okay, let's be lazy. We've got the mixer right here. It's already out. It's already dirty, so let's use it. Scrape that stuff. Ooh, I can smell the cinnamon now. Have my oven heating up to 325. I have my baking racks, or excuse me, my baking sheets back there lined with parchment paper, so I'm ready to go. If your mixture is really warm from heating up your dates, then you'll need to chill it before you bake. This is not too warm. No, it's perfectly fine. If you heated it up on the stove, it would get hotter, and you would want to chill your mixture before you baked. And then we're going to add raisins because whereas they are very good just as they are, something about adding the raisins really makes it feel like an oatmeal cookie, in my opinion. Again, I keep saying in my opinion, but it's my recipe, right? So it gets to be my opinion. But my kids agreed. Everybody agreed in my house. The raisins made them a lot better. So you want about a half a cup. A little bit more, a little bit less. It doesn't matter. You could use something else. You could use dried cranberries, dried blueberries. There's one brand called Steve's Paleo Goods that they are sweetened with a little bit of, I think, apple juice. So they're not super sweetened. Usually the other dried fruits have a a lot of added sugar. But raisins are pretty easy to find without added sugar. Okay, so that's it. So it's really easy. Nice, beautiful oatmeal cookie dough without the oats. So I'm simply going to portion these out. And I love these scoops. They make it so easy to get even cookies. If you want your cookies to bake evenly, you need to put even sized cookie balls in the oven. So these are really easy to find on Amazon, or if you happen to be in a decent sized city or have one close to you, restaurant supply stores will carry these, and they're really cheap. A restaurant supply store is a great place to go if you have one near you. Actually, my baking pans came from there. I have links to products like these that you can buy through Amazon. They may be the same ones that I got at my restaurant supply store, but I know that's not available to everyone, so I found similar things for you, and I posted those links on my website. I have a resources and ingredients page. You can find it right at the top of the website, and I've linked to these. And yours will be brand new and pretty and shiny and not all stained and beat up like mine. But you know what? They still work perfectly fine. You absolutely do not have to line your pans with parchment paper if you don't want to, but I want to because it makes cleaning up a lot easier. These cookies will keep at room temperature for a few days, no problem. If you want to keep them much longer than that, you need to refrigerate. They freeze super well. You can freeze them baked, or you can freeze them as dough, which is my favorite way to do it. We like to, if I'm going to go to the effort to make the recipe, get all the ingredients out, a lot of times I'll go ahead and double the recipe and then bake some, however many we need for whatever is happening, and then just freeze, scoop out the rest of the dough, just like I'm doing right here, and stick them in the freezer, and then once they're frozen, you put them in a Ziploc bag and pull them out to frost them for a few minutes, and you can have fresh baked cookies whenever you want. Okay, so these are going in the oven. I like a low and slow approach, so we're doing 325, and it will take about 20 minutes to bake these, and I'll show them to you when they're all done. Okay, we have finished N'oatmeal cookies, and they're really perfect. In my opinion, this is the perfect cookie. They have a little bit of crispiness to them on the outside, yet they're tender on the inside. You have the raisins studded through there, a little bit of cinnamon. They're just perfect, and they're delicious, and I hope you saw that they were not hard to make. I do encourage you, if you're going to stick with this paleo lifestyle, people say, oh, well, I eat paleo about 80% of the time. That's great. That's better than 0% of the time. But you really could do it much more than that. I know there are exceptions to every rule, right? There are people that eat out all the time because of traveling for work or whatever, and I know that's a lot harder. But if you're in a position to eat at home, then you're in a position to stick with your diet 100% of the time. But you do need to go ahead and take the time and spend a little bit of money and build up your pantry and your fridge so that you have the right resources available. And then you can make a treat like this on occasion, and it makes it so much easier to stick with it. If you feel like you're being deprived, that's going to be a hard way to live. But I am not deprived to get to eat these cookies that don't actually have oatmeal in them. They are so full of yummy things, pecans and walnuts and almonds and raisins and flaxseed and cinnamon. They're absolutely delicious. I wouldn't have it any other way. So I hope you try this recipe. I really hope you enjoy it. And again, please use my website as a reference, ourpaleofamily.com. That's where the recipe is written down for you. You can print it out easily. That's where I have a list of what I think are the essentials to have in your kitchen to be able to cook this way for the long term. So check out that resources and ingredients page. Consider a Thrive Market membership. You'll save some money on these ingredients. And yeah, that's it. I hope you make these cookies, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks, everybody.